Hi, hi, hi. Good evening. Hello. Hi, hi, hi. Hi, hi everyone. Good evening. Hello. Can you hear me? Hi, Samir. Can you hear me, Samir? Can someone confirm? Is my voice loud and clear? Hi, Anupama. Hi, Coach. Good evening. Anushri, good evening. So today we have a very interesting talk. We trust me, today is a very interesting talk with Dr. Vilona, and so today's topic is about uh, the topic's name is "It's All in Mind," and it's a topic about a psychiatry aspect, mental wellness, and which is very important in today's time, as all of us know that we are passing through a difficult time. So I am just getting Dr. Vilona Annunciation. Dr. Vilona. I'm just getting Doc online. Sorry. Yes. So today's topic is called It's All in Mind, and I'll be having Dr. Vilona Annunciation.
Hello.
Hi, hi, Vilona. Hi, good evening. How are you?
Hi, Vijay. I'm good. How are you?
All good, all good. Can you hear me, Vilona?
Yes, I can hear you very clearly.
Okay, so good evening to you and everyone who's listening. I'm sure a lot of you will be adding up in the subsequent 1 hour times. And today's topic
Yeah.
is very interesting. Interesting, Vilona. Like I was discussing, we have a mix of youngsters who are aspiring for various career, and then we
Okay.
have a lot of friends from running fraternity, and
Okay.
so a big thanks to Samir. Samir is listening to this interview. Big thanks to him to connect to you. And then this subject is pretty apt in today's time. In fact, this subject was always there, but nobody paid a heed to it. Nobody gave a importance to it. So so we will be taking most of the time. You will be speaking. I will be only asking few things, and then I move on. You. So all of us need guidance and a light on this subject. So all those who are listening, so we are talking about, the topic is it's all in mind. It's a topic about mental wellness, and in today's time, how all of us go through this phase, but somewhere it is silent. Nobody knows what you're going through. So I'll be asking few
Correct.
questions to Fiona, and then how she takes us through. So my request is, please
Sure.
listen to this, and if you have any question, you can post to us. Probably in the last 10 minutes, we will take it, because this subject is a vast ocean, and 1 hour
Yes.
is too less of time. Let's see how it goes. Maybe if towards the end
Absolutely.
he remains on some topic, so I'll get you live again, subsequently. So,
Sure.
ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, everybody, here is Dr. Vilona Annunciation, and she's a very renowned name, in the sports circle. All of us know, including yesterday, Satish sir was mentioning me, Satish Gujran, and she has helped a number of people to understand the issues bothering them. A lot of my friends have given testimonial to Dr. Vilona. So, ladies and gentlemen, here is Dr.
Absolutely.
Vilona Annunciation. A good evening to her from all of us. And yeah, so Vilona, like, hi Murli, hi everyone. So this topic of the mental wellness, nobody wants. Maybe in today's scenario, still people are coming out and telling, okay, I have got some problem, but age old, maybe till few years back, nobody was ready to accept that I'm not going through a good time, or maybe I'm going through a difficult time. So What, first of all, what motivated you to take up psychiatrist as a profession? Like someone say, we know psychiatrist bola to okay, these are very learned people. So what was your motivation to get into psychiatry?
Okay, so first of all, thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this live. And yes, we have Samir to thank for this. Thank you so much, Samir. To answer your question, so ever since I've been a child, my dream was to become a doctor. And whenever, bachpan mein any uncle or auntie would ask me, beta, bade hoke kya banna hai? I used to say doctor banungi. So it was just a culmination of my dreams that I got into MBBS, and I did my MBBS at JJ Hospital in Mumbai. And while I was doing my MBBS, I had two ideas in mind. Ki either I will deliver babies or I will take care of babies. And all my friends will tell you that I'm mad about kids. I love kids. So that was the first idea that came into my mind when I joined MBBS. And unfortunately, during my internship, when I worked in gynac and pediatrics, I was like, ye nahi hoga mujhse. I won't be able to manage this. It was so many, quick decisions, snap judgments that you have to make, because most of the patients that come in are in serious emergency or, immediately need to be rushed to the OT and managed or whatever. Immediately you need to take decisions and do treatment. And I was always this anxious girl who would worry ki, Are, what if I make the wrong decision? What if I choose the wrong option? What if my patient has some difficulty because of a mistake that I made? So I said, I'm not going to take anything that requires ekdam emergency. And psychiatry was one of my top options. So when I was studying for the entrance exams and we were filling the forms, I still remember we were filling the forms for St. John's Medical College, Bangalore. And my father was looking at all the seats that were there. And he was like, medicine, there are 8 seats. Surgery, there are 8 seats. Psychiatry, there is 1 seat. You will not get it. So I kept telling him that, no, I can't do medicine surgery. I will do psychiatry. And when I joined psychiatry, it was like coming home. It was so comfortable. I was so at ease. I was in a very different town because I did my MD in Mangalore. And most of the patients that came in were from Karnataka. So they spoke only Kannada or Tulu. And lots of them from Kerala because it's on the border. So Kasargod, Kannur, lots of patients coming from there. And I didn't know anything of Malayalam, but I used to make one intern sit with me. I used to make him translate. And it was so much fun. I enjoyed those days.
Seriously. And that's how the, foray into psychiatry as a branch of medicine, you made it, right?
Absolutely.
So now getting into the subject, so how long you have been practicing in active practice after your degree in psychiatry or after your PG in psychiatry? So it's been more than 15 years?
No. I have been in mental health for the last 10 years. But after finishing my PG, it's been about 7 years of active practice.
Okay. And then there is always since as I said, there is always a taboo relating to psychologist and psychiatry, and there are a lot of jumbled words. So what exactly is the difference between a psychiatry and a psychologist? So a lot of people say psychiatrist, psychologist. So
yes.
So if you can just throw some light,
That's a very nice question. So before I answer that question, I want to really appreciate that you use the word psychiatry as a branch of medicine, because a lot of times people don't realize that it is a branch of medicine and can be treated with medicines. In fact, even so many of my own colleagues and doctors always tell me that patient बहुत depressed है, patient actively suicidal है, तुम बात करके counseling करो. And I'm like, counseling nahi kiya ja sakta hai in a severely depressed patient. You need to give medicines at those points. So that is something that I would definitely like to highlight, that it is a branch of medicine. So, moving into the question that you asked, this is also a question that I get very often. because a lot of patients come with the idea कि कुछ तो problem है, कुछ तो stress है, and I want to talk about it. And of course, our movies don't help, because all the movies show, psychiatry and psychology like a mixed bag, and you have this entire image of going into a clinic and having a couch and lying down on it and nicely talking, whereas most of us psychiatrists have a busy OPD. So it's like any doctor's clinic, with the table and chairs and maybe a BP machine and some regular, like any other doctor's clinic. It's not very different. Of course, now there are a lot of doctors who are moving into therapy as well, and are also looking at changing their clinic space to have it more comfortable for the patients. So when you look at psychiatry and psychology is a branch of medicine. So to study psychiatry, you have to finish your MBBS, and then you do your MD in psychiatry, or you can do a diploma or a DNB, and that will help you, finish your post-graduation in mental health, and you will be able to study and practice as a psychiatrist. So as a psychiatrist, you are licensed to write medications. You have to register yourself in the state government, whichever state you want to practice in. So each state has their own medical register. So we have to register ourselves, and they give us a registration number, and based on that we can practice. So in every prescription, I need to put down my registration number saying that I can practice based on this number, and the chemist will use that number to make a note of the patient's prescription, so that there is no misusing of medications. A psychologist is somebody who has probably, now in Maharashtra, the concept is doing a bachelor's of arts and then a master's of arts. So BA and then MA in psychology. In South, like where I studied in Karnataka and in Kerala and Tamil Nadu, it is more a BSc. So they do a BSc and then they do an MSc in psychology. If you ask me, I feel psychology is a science. So, I feel it is more a science subject than an art subject. But even a lot of my friends and colleagues with whom I work, even though they've studied and completed through the arts faculty, they have a very good handle on the scientific aspect of psychology, because they have to understand how the brain works, what are the different aspects of the brain's functioning, and which areas of the brain they are working with, so that they are able to work effectively with clients. So what they do is that they talk to the clients and figure out patterns of thought, patterns of behavior that are not helpful to the client, and help them work through it in ways that are simple and easy for the client from their own personality point of view. So I will give the medicines, but my medicine will do like a immediate relief and maybe a short-term treatment. For the longer term, sometimes medications are also used, but therapy is also used, because a lot of times patients have this goal that they want to get off medications. So how do they get off medications? They have to change patterns of thought, patterns of behavior that have brought them to the point of depression, or that have brought them to the point of extreme anxiety. And that change is done with therapy. So when they talk to the therapist, they identify what they could change in their behavior, and they make that happen.
Okay. In fact, there is a question already. People who have issues dealing with behaviors, whom should they approach? Whether it's a psychiatrist or a psychologist. Samir is asking rather. So I'm sure. So I know the answer. Maybe a psychiatrist.
So you could approach either. It doesn't matter, because even if you approach a good psychologist, they will be able to pinpoint if it is medically, if it is medically significant enough to warrant treatment. So it doesn't matter. You could approach any mental health professional. What you need to understand, however, is if the symptoms are really bad, like for example, if you've not been sleeping for a few days, then that's understandable, right? And you can probably reach out to a psychologist. But if you've not been sleeping for a few months and it is getting to a point where your entire next day is disturbed, then you should reach out to a psychiatrist. So one of the, the professors that I know, she is the the head of psychology at Nanavati, Dr. Cecilia Chettiar, she said that there is like this difference that you should remember. So if the bone is broken, you will go to an orthopedic surgeon. And if there's a sprain, you will go to the physiotherapist. So it's exactly like that. When there is a fracture, you have to come to the psychiatrist. When it's just a dislocation or when it's just some difficulty dealing with the situation, you can go to a psychologist and they will help you out.
Okay, okay. So that's a great one, like, so to me, like all of us, maybe our generation, like I'm into my 40s and 43, 44. So there was this movie called Khilona, Sanjeev Kapoor, old time, if you remember. And then he sings Khilona Jankar Tum Meri, and then he jets his hands out of those rails. And tabhi then people say, "Arey, ye abhi isko na ye psychiatrist ke paas, he's a psycho," and all those things. So we always, so when the word comes psychiatrist, वो सब लोग डर जाते हैं, normal doctor या any other disease, any other ailment or disease. So when you go, so okay, yeah. Like in the moment psychiatrist बोला, तो I don't know why that fear comes in people's mind, as if ki, what will society think? Okay, he's taking a help of psychiatrist. Even today when we are speaking, I stand testimonial to it, saying that there are 70% or 80% of people in India who will say, who will look up to you like, "Arey, ye psychiatrist ke paas ja raha hai." And in that bargain, the person itself say, "Chhod yaar, I will deal myself," and then he ruins himself. So what's your take on that? I think what I said just now would be true, isn't it? Since
absolutely.
You would be knowing the scenario. Yeah,
that's so absolutely true, because so many times people reach out to us, and so one of the NGOs that I work with, their protocol is that when the patient comes in the first time, even if they have come to see a psychologist, they are seen by a psychiatrist first, because we decide whether or not medications are needed. So that becomes like priority level 1, ki we check whether medications are needed or not. And if medications are not needed, then we refer to the psychologist. So it has happened quite a few times in my practice that patients have reached out at a very early stage, or to try and understand what is the issue that is happening to them. And I have said that I don't think right now we need to work with medicines. Let's start with counseling first, and let's see how you're doing. Also, second time round when patients come, like for example, they've come to me once before, and we treated the depression, things were better, and then they're coming back the second time. They come much earlier. They don't wait till symptoms get really bad, because they already know ki kya hota hai when it gets bad. So they come earlier and they start treatment earlier. So that's very good, because then a lot of times I can say that now things are not so bad, so let's start with therapy first, and then let's see if medicines are needed at a later date. So I think one of the biggest stigmas at approaching a psychiatrist is psychiatric dawaiyon pe dal denge. That's the biggest worry that people have. Ki, the minute they come into my clinic, they are like, I have come to you because the counter said ki I have to see you, but dawai nahi dena. Kuch bhi karo, but dawai nahi dena. So I have to work really hard to explain to them that I am not going to prescribe anything that is not necessary, while at the same time relieving all their anxieties about the medication. It takes time, because, as it is psychiatric history lene ko, it takes about 40 minutes, 45 minutes. And beyond that, then to explain to the patient about medications, about side effects, about what they should expect, all of that, it will take about an hour or so, right? So the first consultation, usually I like to spend about 30 to 40 minutes at least with the patient. Some days are really busy and it is not possible. Some days it's possible. So like right now in the OPD, there's not much of crowd. So I can spend a good 45 minutes with the patient and I can explain everything very nicely to the patient. But yeah, like I think awareness videos like this, talking about a different, the approach that psychiatry is also a medical condition and it can be treated, can help reduce the stigma. Another common stigma inducing factor that people experience is that they look at psychiatry as their fault. Matlab, if I'm feeling sad, मुझ में कुछ तो कमी है या मुझ में कुछ तो प्रॉब्लम है, बाकी किसी को ऐसा नहीं लग रहा है. So they don't look at it as a chemical imbalance in the brain. It's a very different concept, you know, to think of it as like मेरे बॉडी में इंसुलिन बराबर काम नहीं कर रहा है इसलिए मेरा शुगर हाई हो रहा है. एंड इट्स अ वेरी डिफरेंट कॉन्सेप्ट टू से कि मेरे ब्रेन में सेरोटोनिन काम नहीं कर रहा है इसलिए मैं डिप्रेस्ड हूँ. सो इट दैट कॉन्सेप्ट हैज स्टिल नॉट स्टक विथ पीपल. It is getting much better from 10 years back when I started with the practice. And, you know, at that time, the people that were reaching out were, you know, people with a lot of extreme conditions, like where it was absolutely necessary to, say, hospitalize them or admit them and immediately treat with injections. Now, a lot more people are coming in early stages and asking for help actively. So that's a very good sign. I practice in an urban setting. So in the cities, the awareness is much more. Also, people who know me have referred, like among their friends, if somebody is going through something or somebody is distressed, then they will say that I know this doctor, she's good, she will not give unnecessary medicine, so go and see her. So then they come. So slowly and steadily, the stigma is changing, and but it's still an uphill task, because out of every 10 people who reach out, I think there are 100 who don't. So we still have a big job to do.
In fact, you know, I would qualify this statement with saying that, you know, awareness is like the awareness for the armed forces when joining towards the armed forces is very less in our country. Similarly, I would say psychiatry and psychologist or psychiatry as a branch, or, you know, someone going through, the awareness is very, very less, you know. Right now, at this moment when we are speaking, I know, you know, lots and lots of people would be going through some form of mental state or some imbalance. But then that same stigma, or, you know, to reaching out some people, or if anyone comes to know what कि मैं psychiatrist को देख रहा हूँ तो फिर क्या सोचेंगे लोग, क्या सोचेंगे, lot of things. I think people like you who you know, who are the professionals and you are the angels, you know, you have a big role to play considering the current scenarios and the future. So I'm sure you're doing a great job. Yes, Bobby.
In fact, from what you said, I just realized that my field is not like any other field. Matlab, when I go out to the market or when I go for a wedding and I see one of my patients, I cannot smile and say hello to them unless they say hello to me first, because I'm scared that they might feel that, you know, people will judge them. So I stay quiet and I wait for them to open up and say, hello, doctor. And then I say hello. And most of the time, you know, I don't acknowledge or I don't say anything. I don't know what they think. I hope they don't think that I'm being rude, but I'm just, you know, maintaining confidentiality, because in my field, that is a priority. Like, everybody who comes to me doesn't want anybody else to know what they're going through. And that's understandable, because they come and share very, very deep stuff. And it's part of my job. So when people go out of their way to acknowledge that they know me, I feel really, really touched. And that's a very good feeling.
Seriously. And then where do the counselor comes? You know, there was a question also when we say counselor, a medical counselor. So where do they fall in this category? As a psychiatrist or a psychologist, when you know, people say, okay, I'll counsel you, because when we generally hear this, okay, counselor ke paas jao karke, so they would be this. So you are also called as counselors, like psychiatrists. So sorry, pardon for my, you know, questions. You know, it would be very basic.
No problem. They are very good questions, because I'm sure these are questions that a lot of people have, but they don't know whom to ask. So it's a good idea to have these questions.
I represent the entire, you know, non-technical, non-medical professionals. So I may be asking some silly questions. So please pardon. ये नहीं सोचना कि क्या पूछ रहे हो.
No, not a problem at all. So in our training,
question, where do the counselors go?
Yeah. So in our training as psychiatrists, we have a few months of therapy training or counseling training. Plus, we are also taught about therapeutic techniques in our studies. Okay, but the real test is in actual practice, right? Because the books say one thing, but when you go and interact with the patient face to face, it's a completely different picture that comes up, right? So the more you practice counseling patients, the more you get better at it. Generally, psychiatrists don't have so much time, because if I'm seeing a patient for medicines, I would see a patient, like say a first time patient, for 30 minutes or 40 minutes. But follow-up patients will take hardly 15 minutes or 10 minutes even. It doesn't take very long to do follow-up appointments. So for counseling, we need to give at least 45 minutes to an hour, which would, seriously limit the number of patients that I'm able to see in the day. Even then, there are a lot of psychiatrists who have an interest in counseling and who do that as a part of their job. So I am training in this specialized form of therapy called Gestalt therapy. It's one of the ways of counseling a patient. There are different ways. So there is CBT, there is REBT, Gestalt is one of the ways, and I'm doing training in that. So now what I do is I set aside 2 or 3 hours every week where I will exclusively only counsel patients, and the sessions with the permission of the patient are recorded and sent to my professor, who then listens to them and guides me as to what I should do to improve myself. Okay. Generally, counselors do only counseling. So they are, like I said, psychologists who have done BA or BAMA or BSc, MSc, and they will have a psychology practice. So they will have, say, 6 or 8 clients in a day that they will see for 1 hour each, and they will spend their time exclusively doing therapy with these patients.
Okay, great. And then many a time, we always say, like, first step is, rather than taking a professional help, so rather than taking a professional help, what happens is people say, yaar, koi aise doston mein confide karo, ya someone who's very close to you, so that, so I do that, when I'm going through a stress or which I cannot tell to someone, I have my very close set of friends whom I just pick phone and say, okay, I'm going through this. And I've gone through that, I have to admit that I've gone through that. And there are my good friends who's listening also, they would stand testimony to that. I just pick up phone and say, okay, I'm going through this. So they do advise, but I know then things get back on track and things are fine, So
Correct.
What is your thought on that? Like, if is that the correct step, that if I'm going through some phase, just to pick up things and call someone and a sort of self-counseling or a friends hearing, will that work, or they do really need to come to a psychiatrist?
See, from whatever I have experienced and whatever I've seen with my patients, this is usually the first step of counseling. This is usually the first reach out that people do. They call up family, friends, people they are close to, talk about whatever is going on. They reach out to maybe their mentors, people whom they trust, and they talk about what is happening. Usually, even after doing that, if there is no solution or if things keep getting worse, that is when they reach out to us.
Correct.
So we always say that if talking to somebody is helping you out and it is if it's happening too often, like for example, you've had a distressing episode, you feel better for a while, and then again you come back to the same position, then it's probably time that you consider meeting a psychologist or a psychiatrist so that you can get a deeper insight into why this is happening again and again.
Okay. And then so how do you define depression? Depression is a very common term used.
Yes.
Last Sunday, as we speak today, last Sunday, that's how the entire topic raked up again with respect to Sushant Singh, and then depression becomes a very common term. Everyone say, "मैं depression से जा रहा हूँ," या I'm depressed, or whether it's office scenario, sports scenario, or you miss out on something when you lose someone. So people generally say depression. So what's your definition of a depression?
Okay. So depression comes under the category of mood disorders. Okay. And in mood disorders, we have different disorders. Like we have depression, we have bipolar, we have a mania. So we have different disorders that come under the umbrella of mood disorders. Now in depression, what we look for is specific signs and symptoms which contribute to the diagnosis of depression. Okay. And usually we follow guidelines set by the American Psychiatric Association or WHO. Okay. So the American Psychiatric Association puts out a book every few years called DSM. Right now we are using the DSM-5, which is the current version of DSM. And we also have ICD, which is the WHO classification of diseases. So either of these, diagnostic criteria can be used to decide whether a person is suffering from depression or not. Now, if you look at a disease like diabetes or blood pressure, yeah, the WHO outlines specific guidelines. Ki suppose your BP is more than, say, 150 millimeters of mercury when it is checked on 2 or 3 successive occasions, only then you can diagnose it to be as high blood pressure, right? So even for us, we have specific criteria that outline what depression means. So usually we diagnose based on these criteria. Now, if you look at depression, people will think that crying all the time, feeling suicidal, these might be the major criteria for depression, but these are not. The major criteria for depression is feeling low most of the days, not even every day of the week, most of the days. That means in 7 days of the week, at least 4 days, if I'm feeling more low than happy, that could mean that I'm going towards depression. Okay. So one is feeling low. The other is feeling no interest and feeling no energy. So these are 3 core symptoms of depression. And then there are a lot of minor symptoms like decreased appetite, weight loss, sleep disturbances. All of this can contribute towards depression. So we use all of this to make a diagnosis of depression.
Okay. Yeah, because generally that is the term we usually, hear from a lot of people, And then yeah. There was a question also. And do you as a psychiatrist come to know that, the person whom you are seeing, or maybe by look of him, or maybe by talking to him sometime, that it is going to be really difficult for him, or he's of suicidal tendency, like what happened to, Sushant, or a lot of people were saying, had he reached out to someone, I'm sure he would be seeing a psychiatrist or professional help he would have taken. So do you come to know, or are you able to sense, okay, there is something major he may take up, what's your take on that?
Okay. So there are definitely certain signs and symptoms that we can pick up if we have been talking to the patient and interacting with them. I always make it a point to ask any patient that comes to me with depressive symptoms whether they are having thoughts or ideas related to suicide, or even maybe not active ideas like I want to do this to kill myself, but even the general death wish, like, I wish life would just end, or I wish, things would just get better and I could just run away from here, or I could just end everything. So that's more of a passive idea that is coming in the person's mind, not like an active idea, okay, I need to do this to, hurt myself or harm myself. But I always make it a point to ask. So one thing that we do is we are trained to ask for signs and symptoms that are related to depression. And that can give us a clue as to whether the person might, think or look at suicide as an option. Sometimes there are certain personality factors. For example, if somebody has a personality that gets easily frustrated, or if somebody has a personality that is not able to cope with rejection. So if there are certain personality factors that can contribute to depression, then we are able to identify that, and we usually, look at these personality factors also. Talking to the patient may or may not tell us about their personality, but generally talking to the family members or talking to the friends helps us understand what is happening about the personality of the patient. And we also have tests like psychological tests that we can do, which will help us identify whether a person is a particular personality type. And then we can probably inform the family members or close people that, this is something that you need to take care of and you need to be cautious about.
Very true, very true. And thus, overthinking, you see, because we see a lot of people, they just think on, ऐसा हुआ तो ऐसा, मैं कल अगर ऑफिस जाऊंगा तो मेरा बॉस ऐसे बोलेगा, like all those things. So they are always overthinking, this will happen, then this, so people will laugh at me, or people will, so it's a matter of overthinking. Is that a sign of depression? Overthinking, is it a sign of depression?
So overthinking can cause depression because when you're constantly overthinking, you won't feel happy. You will feel low. You will slowly lose interest. You will be like, इतना इतना सारा सवाल है या इतना सारा questions है, तो how to continue going forward. But overthinking is more a sign of anxiety. So anxiety is a different spectrum from depression. Anxiety means a constant worry, like a chinta that's always there on your mind. You're always thinking of the various options, trying to plan too much into the future, trying to, sort of worry a lot about a lot of factors that are around you that are not in your control. So overthinking is more a sign of anxiety rather than depression.
Okay, and then if I ask you a question like how to overcome it, so people say meditate and things like that. So what's your take on that? Does that help?
So meditation can help. I don't deny that, but meditation is very difficult. No, Vijay, what do you think? It's not easy. Yeah, it's not possible for me also. I find it very difficult to sit quietly in one place and meditate. What works for me is exercise. So I think somebody else also had put up a question in the chat whether exercise helps. So it definitely helps. In fact, one thing is, that physical outlet, that movement and that energy that your body gets into definitely uplifts your mood and gives you a better feeling for the rest of the day. Because you know how you feel at the end of your morning run. It's a good feeling, right? It's that dopamine, serotonin pumped up brain, it's really a happy brain. So it's a very good way to start with exercise first. If people would prefer to meditate, I tell them to meditate after doing some physical activity, because the body's restlessness has calmed down, the body has settled down, and now it is time for your brain to focus. In fact, we also use this for children. Like a lot of hyperactive children come to me because of ADHD related concerns.
One of the questions also, how do you control very aggressive or hyperactive kids,
Yeah, so a lot of hyperactive kids come to us for, academic concerns or behavioral concerns. And what we always tell the parents is, padhai karne ke pehle make him do some cardio or make her do some cardio. So it can be skipping, it can be jumping jacks, it can be, like just Surya Namaskar, even simple things like that. Like right now, most of my patients cannot do their favorite swimming, cycling, all of that is out of the question. So most of the bachas are at home and the parents are really struggling. So I was telling them that just do Surya Namaskar, do jumping jacks, and the parents should do it with the child, because then the child is even more energized to do it. So that's definitely one way to, settle down the anxiety.
In fact, I totally agree with you. Like, some days are really, really, really tough, for being a corporate professional, like how corporate works.
Yes.
So the best thing is, morning में जाओ या शाम को frustrate होके आते हैं, तो best thing is go for a 10 kilometer or 5 kilometer run, come back.
Yes.
And it definitely has a huge change on your way of thinking, your way of thinking, the way you sit, and then the perspective is totally different. So definitely sports, I think, is one of the healer, and probably it is one of the solutions also, and
Absolutely.
and I have seen a lot of friends or whom I know who were supposed to be very depressed people, and alcoholic, and overcoming the alcohol, and once they got into sports, then sports was a metaphor for them, changing metaphor, what I can say. But at the same time, many got addicted to it, then that become a problem. So it was like, if I'm not able to run a 20 kilometer, I go into depression. I've even heard this. पता नहीं मुझे ना अजीब लग रहा है करके, So of course that's a positive depression, because you can always go back and run and feel good about it. So so lot of people, there are success and there are failure, when a lot of people who I interact, they are aspiring armed forces youngsters, you know. So other day I got a message saying that, sir, army or navy or air force is my dream, you know, and if I don't get that, I will commit suicide. One of the kid has probably second year graduate girl who messaged me. I said, boss, like, okay, fine, you have to control, you know, everything happens for good and this. So if you have a suicide tendency, you are already weak at heart. So armed forces is not for you in that case. You know, someone say, I'll commit a suicide, you don't go to armed forces. But at the same time, I have come across so many people who say this. You know, अगर मुझे वो नहीं मिला, you know, maybe you know, when we were young, or teenage time or growing up, or someone you like, एक बंदी पसंद आ गई तो बोला अगर ये नहीं मिला तो मैं suicide commit कर लूंगा, या नौकरी हुआ तो बोला कि I'll commit suicide. And so what is your take on, you know, failure as a cause of depression? So does failure actually affect for the depression?
Yeah. So if you look at it now, right now, in mental health, we are looking at three factors that contribute to causing depression at any point of time. Okay, whether it is in childhood or in middle ages or as senior citizens, three factors have to come together. Okay, one is definitely the genetics. Okay, so if there is a family history of depression, if there is, hello, am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
If there is a family history of depression, if there is some sort of even a family history of any other psychiatric illness in the family, that can, you know, in some way or the other could transform into a different disorder and come up as a depression in somebody down the line. So that is one factor that we definitely look at, and that is something that we always ask patients when they come to us for the first time. Of course, in our country, we don't have a lot of awareness about mental health. And the second thing is, past mein, even if people had depression, not many went for treatment unless it was like really, really bad. So most of the times people will say कि नहीं हमारे खानदान में किसी को नहीं है. But if you ask them कि ऐसा behavior या ऐसा स्वभाव किसी का था क्या, and then they are able to pinpoint कि हाँ मेरे दादाजी का स्वभाव था या मेरे नानी का स्वभाव था. So that way they are able to identify similar patterns of behavior in the family. So one is genetics. The second thing is personality. So as I grow, what is it that I'm absorbing from the environment and what is my personality turning into? So we have friends all around us. Some are these absolutely, you know, positive, vibrant people who you look at, no matter whatever stress comes their way, they will take it and, you know, they will deal with it and they will somehow manage. And this is something that is an area of deep interest for me. Ki what is it that makes people bounce back even despite n number of stresses, and why is it that some people cannot? So one factor is the resilience of the person. So this is their personality, what kind of personality they have. And the third thing is stress. So like, for example, you said that, you know, rejection in some way, whether it is job, whether it is some academic goal that they have set, whether it is a relationship. So some sort of failure in any of these areas could be counted as one of the stressors that adds to the onset of depression. But it is not the only thing, because you will see that maybe around you there are 20 people going through different kinds of failures. Not everybody goes through depression. And that is dependent on their personality and their genetics also. So it can definitely be, you know, the stress that is causing it. And in fact, for us, when we see that only stress is the reason, that's a very good sign, because then the patient will recover as soon as the stress is removed. So it's a very good, you know, kind of depression. If it's because of stress, the treatment is much simpler, because the main focus has to be on removing the stress, and then the patient does very well. Unfortunately, some stresses can't be removed. Na? Like a lot of people come to me saying that I'm depressed because my SARS keeps nagging. And then I'm like, okay, we can't do anything about that. So let's treat the depression.
So you should have always said, SARS bhi kabhi bahu thi. Huh? So think on that time.
I'm sure.
In fact, when again coming back to, so there are many other than all these factors. Like if I'm given a task in office, or say if I have to run a marathon of 50 kilometer, that is still, running. Second part is 50 kilometer and all is still fine. But if something is affecting my livelihood, like if tomorrow I have to handle in few days, I have to handle a very big project, and there are a lot board or other people who are going to watch, and you are, taking that responsibility for the first time. So there are cases where there was a question also that people go into depression. So have you encountered any such scenarios where they have to do something new and they are stressed, and then they go into depression and they're not able to perform?
Yes, yes, definitely. There are a lot of patients who reach out for, distress because either they have some new responsibility that is going to be added, or because they are worried that they may not match up to the expectation that people have set up for them. So again, rather than depression, I would say this is a sign of anxiety. Because, you're already worrying about what people will think, what they will judge me for, how they will comment on what I'm doing, whether I will be good at it or not. And an anxious brain always shows you the worst possible outcome, right? Like for a mother whose child cannot be spotted, the most common thought that comes is kuch to ho gaya hai, So your anxious brain tends to show you the worst possible outcome as the most likely outcome. So people with anxiety tend to overthink and worry about any situation that's going to happen in the future. So I have people reaching out, especially if they are very quiet, introverted people, and now they're getting married, and they're very scared about what's going to happen because it's a completely different person that you have to adjust with. And if it's a girl, it's not only the person, they have to also adjust with a new family. So it's like double trouble for them. So it's a lot on their plate, and they come out with anxiety and worry about that. So that is definitely something that I see.
Sometimes even after 10, 12 years of marriage, you are scared, so that's a different...
Yeah, absolutely. That's a different kind of fear, especially when you forget to buy whatever the wife has told you to buy.
So also, acceptance, social acceptance is something with this age of social media, Facebook or whatever medium, So I've seen a lot of people who are pretty active on, especially the celebrities type, when they don't get that acceptance of social media. So have you encountered such cases where people are depressed because of, they are not accepted on social media? I know there are few people, they really get depressed when things doesn't happen. So what's your take on that? And I'm sure social media is taking a big toll. It's for good as well as for worse also. So what's your take on that?
So the idea is not to be able to strike a balance, to be able to create content that you are passionate about and you're comfortable about, and at the same time not get carried away by the likes and the lack of likes, both. So that's a very difficult balance to achieve, right? Because when you see those likes just shooting up, and when you see that graph going up, there is definitely something magical happening in your reward center in the brain. And your brain is like, ye वापस होना चाहिए, ye वापस होना चाहिए, and your brain wants it again and again. So it's a little difficult to just let go of that feeling. But the trick is to find many things that can stimulate that reward center, so that the dependence is not only on social media likes. So I have quite a few friends who are influencers. I have quite a few psychiatrists that I know who are very active on social media and who are very vocal about what they're doing. And yes, this is definitely a concern that some of them have expressed, that when we put something out that we feel very strongly about, but the public doesn't respond, it feels really bad. And I can understand that, because it's something that you have worked on with all your effort and time and energy. And when you don't get the required love from people, it can feel bad. But the point is that at that point of time, you need to look at the enjoyment and the passion that you felt while creating it, and just stay with that. Ki, theek hai, this is what is enough for me, even if everybody doesn't like it, because I did what I liked. And I think that's something that we need to focus on.
Yes. In fact, I remember there are some good contents which people, whether music or things, they sing with passion and this, and there is suddenly a Dhinchak Puja coming who doesn't know anything and he's garnering so
That's
much.
Such a good example.
And then the other guy just goes into depression, saying कि मैंने तो इतने रियाज करके everything करके, and there is a girl who's coming who's just reading out something. Because of that peer thing, he goes into depression. कि उसको Dhinchak Puja को there were some 50,000 like, and मैंने इतना प्यार से बनाया content on a lighter side. I said. And Facebook was experimenting a couple of years back to put a unlike button. And then within few weeks, they said, no, if that happens, a lot of people will commit suicide or they will go into depression, knowing that likes versus unlike is going to be. And it was actually a study which was, taken. So probably social media, yes. So I'm sure all in your, maybe in your latest syllabus where youngsters are studying psychiatry, social media would be a subject or a how to deal on depression with respect to social media, because all of us have to accept this is going to be there, right? So
absolutely. In fact, it comes under the umbrella of behavioral addiction. So earlier, behavioral addictions included only gambling, compulsive shopping, kleptomania, all of that. Now, they have also added internet addiction. So internet addiction is considered to be in one of the diagnostic categories that they have recommended for DSM. Now, from what you said, what I wanted to say was that it is so important, because when you see content by somebody that you realize that, that the person may not even have put in effort for it. Just 1 minute. That the person may not even have put in effort for it and is getting so many likes and things that you have worked so strongly on and so passionately on is not getting the required affection and the likes by people. You might get you might get that low feeling. The problem is that one low feeling, or that low feeling once in a while, say you are getting it once in a few months, is not that bad because you can deal with it. But when you're an influencer, you are putting out content every single day, right? And correct. In a week, suppose you have put 7 or 10 posts, and out of those 7 or 10 posts, 6 have not got the response that you've wanted, then you are bound to feel much more lower than otherwise. So the point is how frequent and how intense the lows are, and that is something that will help people understand whether they are going through something that is tending towards depression, or whether it is just a temporary reaction to the current situation. So that's important to understand, whether it's just a temporary reaction or whether it's been happening for a while and needs to be addressed. The other thing that you said now, about the like button. So I'm really glad they took it off, because there was this very interesting study that one of my teachers told me about. So they were trying to identify the bias of the brain, and they found out that the human brain has a strong negative bias. So whenever we look at things, the first thing that comes to mind is something negative. It is very rare that positive comes to mind. And in fact, this study, now I don't know how they managed it, but this study said that only in the first 6 months of our life, that means till we are 6 months old, we have a positive bias. Uske baad negative bias takes over and we are always negatively biased. And so the automatic question that came in response to this study was, so if there is a negative bias, can't we combat it with positive? So yes, of course we can combat it with positive, but the study recommended that for every single negative thought, you need to have 7 positive thoughts.
Oh,
so not one positive thought. So, we always say ki somebody is thinking negative, we say positive soch yaar. But it's not positive soch, it's 7 baar positive soch. So it's a lot more effort to think positively than it is to think negatively. So you need to create this entire environment around you, Like for example, Suppose you have your running, you have your friends, maybe you have some hobbies, maybe you have your family. So you create a network of things around you, not just one thing that will make you happy, but a network of things around you. So that even if one of them breaks down, you still have like 6, 7 other areas that you can look at for help when you are feeling down.
Correct.
And that
Absolutely.
might help.
Absolutely. So to all those who are listening, I think, time ka pata hi nahi chala. So Instagram may throw us out, but if I request you that I'll go live after this again, and then I'll take you, because there are some questions which are left,
Sure.
and trust me, so amazing, talking to you itself, because there are so many things I need to ask. So in case we disconnect from Instagram, I'll take you live again immediately after this.
Sure.
I
No
hope
problem.
you have time for that. I know you are busy and Sunday evening, so घर पे भी चिल्लाते होंगे, यार क्या live जा रहा है, किसकी क्या है ये,
No problem. Today I did not keep anything else, so it's a good thing.
Okay. In fact, till last year, this again on a lighter side, a lot of WhatsApp thing. Till last year, till before March, they used to say stay away from negative people. Now they say stay away from positive people because of Corona.
Because of Corona.
And then we'll come to lockdown. So perception is one important aspect. As an individual, you, me, everybody. So I have seen the lockdown was a testing time for all of us. In fact, it is
Yes.
also. But what we went through March till May was a real testing time. And then
Yes.
people have also changed. People have also changed. I've seen that behavior on social media, and even in our local complexes. I tell you an example where it was total lockdown, where nobody was allowed to go out, even in complex. And there was one uncle and auntie who happened to go out in the morning. And then, our complex is pretty huge, and balconies and all everyone have. So people started taking photos, not realizing. So the perception, so they started taking photos, and photos started circulating in the group saying that senior uncle auntie hoke they are walking in the morning, and then everyone started advising, tell them not to go to society. But the actual reason was that somebody has passed away in the other wing, and that happened to be their son-in-law, and nobody bothered to even check. And before that, it was flashing around, So perception.
Yes.
So what do you think that how has lockdown affected us as people, as individuals? This 3 months, you see a different behavior itself from everybody. So what's your take on lockdown and mental health of people? Because we are living in a closed this thing. You're daily, day in and day out, you are seeing each other. So probably a lot of us would have found comfort in office time. Now you are able to spend 24 hours together. So any such scenario which would have come as a case study or something like that?
So honestly, in mental health, the changes that I am seeing is an increase in anxiety. So a lot of people are very, very anxious now, even to step out of the house. Extremely anxious when people around them start coughing, or somebody is without a mask, or even if somebody tries to come close to them and shake hands. The other day in my clinic, we have this, because of the lockdown and everything, now we have specific rules for the patients. Like pehle, they would sit quite close to us. So close that in fact, if somebody was crying, I could reach out and pat them, or, with their permission, just, try and soothe them if the patient was sitting so close to me. But since the lockdown, we've maintained like 1 meter or maybe little more than that distance in the clinic. And in mental health, people come when they are extremely distressed, right? So there was this lady who came into the clinic the other day because her son was drinking too much alcohol during the lockdown. And she was very distressed because he was getting very aggressive. And she was in tears. So when she came into the clinic, without paying attention to any of the rules and everything, she just came so close to me that I thought now she will sit right next to me and talk to me. So I had to tell her that, madam, I understand that you're worried, but please maintain distance, So at times, now I'm seeing that anxiety.
Just one sec. I think we are going to get cut now. So I'm going
Okay,
to take you live again soon. Only 8
sure,
seconds is what Instagram says. So I'm just coming
sure.
back live. So guys, please join. It's very interesting. And there are okay. So 1 hour plus. पता नहीं चला. I'm sure. Yes, guys. Please join. I'm just going to take Dr. Vilona again. Jai Hind, everybody. So we just finished 1 hour of talk with Dr. Vilona. Hi everyone. I think Vilona is here. It's a pretty interesting discussion about. Hi everyone. Hi Jai Hind. About mental health. And Dr. Vinona.
Hi, Vijay.
Hi. I'm so sorry. We never
No problem.
realized. To be very
Yeah,
frank.
even I didn't realize that it was 1 hour already.
To be very frank, when today evening when I was going through, generally I interview runners and someone from the armed forces. I was wondering कि एक psychiatrist के साथ मैं क्या पूछूंगा और 1 घंटा कैसे मैं बिताऊंगा, seriously, यार.
But हम psychiatrists भी एकदम normal लोग ही हैं. Don't worry.
So we were coming to that case of like lockdown where you were saying about that lady. Yes.
So one is anxieties have definitely increased a lot, and a lot more people are, very anxious. And, when you get anxious, at points, your brain stops thinking of logic and it becomes very illogical at times. So that is what we call paranoid thinking. Like, for example, if I have an anxiety that, my husband is talking to somebody, some female on the phone, okay? If I see some conversation or some chat, my brain might tell me कि कुछ तो गड़बड़ है, So उधर logic काम नहीं करेगा. So this kind of paranoid thinking also we are seeing an increase in. I am really worried कि post-traumatic stress disorder cases are going to increase. There is a lot of domestic violence that is increased. There's a lot of anger and aggression that is increased. So there is a lot that is happening in terms of, mental health related anxieties and that paranoid spectrum ka disorders. That is one. The second thing is that I have had a mix of patients reaching out to me through this entire period. In fact, because I've had a few patients who were abroad, I was already doing some amount of online consulting even before the lockdown. Of course, patients who are abroad, I cannot prescribe medications. So I used to only offer counseling support or just generally, talk to them and advise them about what changes they can make in their routine that would help with them. So for me, when the lockdown happened, to shift from, from offline to online was very easy. It didn't take a lot of mehnat because I already was doing WhatsApp consults. They were already paying me via GPay. So there was no, difficulty to shift. But a lot of people had a lot of difficulty to make that transition. And this is among the professionals I'm talking, mental health professionals like psychiatrists, psychologists, occupational therapists. A lot of our work is looking at the patient, right? So abhi to clinic mein what happens is, I have a mask, I have a face shield. Patient has a mask. So I don't know what is happening in terms of the facial expressions, body language, lot of masking is going on. So I'm very confused sometimes in the OPD. So it's a very different challenge for us now, to diagnose patients. And online, though, there is a lot of blindness because I cannot see any of the body postures and gestures. I can at the most see the face area and little, upper body. Beyond that, nothing else. So I don't know whether his hands are shivering, whether his legs are shaking, whether there's a lot of motor restlessness. So all this is guesswork in my brain. Ki kya chal raha hoga? And I have to ask questions and, change the way I'm interacting with the patient so that, things are easier for me to make diagnosis. But overall, I have seen both the pictures. I've seen patients who have very sweetly, told me that they are doing really well. They're very happy with their families. And this lockdown has, made such nice things happen for them. So that's an amazing thing, because as a psychiatrist, I was naturally worried about all my patients, and I was wondering how they will cope, because some of them have OCD, some of them have anxiety, some of them have severe depression. And when the lockdown happened, it happened in such a sudden, short notice kind of a thing that we didn't have time to prepare. And I called the chemists near my clinic and I told them कि मेरे patients आएंगे तो please दवाई दे देना. Like, don't, generally psychiatrists का दवाई without prescription they don't give. So I said, don't make them wait, because it will be difficult for them to cope through this period. And I'm really glad that all across people have supported, and it was going really well for quite a few of my patients. So many of them reached out to tell me that, doctor, we have not been able to meet you, but we are doing well, and, don't worry. So that was very nice of them.
So that's great. I mean, so lockdown, because, so we happen to hear a lot of bombardment in the news, and when you keep TV on, it is only that. WhatsApp is full of corona, and, people giving their theories, and also naturally everything culminates and add up to, further things. Just glad to know that other side, that people were, the positive side of it. So you were telling about that lady whose son was, getting drunk. अभी मुझे वो लेडी का एड्रेस लेना पड़ेगा. हम लोग किसी को दारू नहीं मिला लॉकडाउन में. How come that guy got it?
Well, if you have the right contacts, I'm sure getting it is not a problem.
So okay, would you be able to share your coordinates? Yeah, so definitely I'm going to ask Vilona for that. So maybe another 10-15 minutes more, because I need to ask you a couple of more questions. So
sure.
So when do a person comes to know that he will really need help, or when do someone know that, okay, he's going through a depression, or he needs a professional help rather? Abhi family se kuch nahi hoga karke. So what is that trigger? If you can just throw some light, so that anyone who's going through similar phase may approach a professional. So what's your take on that?
Okay, so there are some red flags that I would definitely like to highlight as definite pointers to when you should reach out for professional help. So when you have too much of extremes of emotion, for example, if you're feeling extremely angry, extremely low, or extremely sad, these could be pointers to find out ki, okay, maybe something is going wrong. Generally, you will not reach out if it is just 1 day or 2 days. But if it is happening for more than 10 days, 2 weeks, it would be a good idea to reach out. Even if it is because of a reason. For example, suppose somebody very close to you has passed away and you are feeling low. Okay. But if you're feeling so low that you don't feel like doing your routine, don't feel like doing your general activities, and don't feel like even getting up in the morning, beyond 2 weeks or 3 weeks, it's a good idea to just check in with a professional and see if there is something going wrong. Okay? Apart from this, if there is aggression, if there is any kind of, overuse of alcohol or tobacco or weed, then that would be a good idea to reach out. If there is a major change in your sleep, appetite, in your weight, these are reasons to reach out. Like, for example, you've not done anything in terms of weight loss and you've suddenly dropped 5 or 6 kilos. Of course, most of us will be very happy with it. But patients with, a mental health concern might feel extremely low and not interested at all in eating food. And that might be the reason for the weight loss. So it's a good idea to, check in with a professional if there is something going wrong. And you may not even need to reach out to a psychiatrist the first time. You can reach out to your general family doctor, to somebody whom you trust, and talk about it and see, whether there is some issue that's going on. And one major red flag is if you think or if you feel that you are tending to have suicidal ideas. So that's a major red flag. If you feel that, the idea comes into your head, ki things are so bad that I don't want to live, or what if I just died, and what if it just all ended? So the thought coming, see, all of us at some point of time or the other experience such a low feeling that we feel ki it's very difficult to continue, and it's almost impossible to go on with life, right? But if that feeling goes on for a while, like, you know, maybe more than a week or so, it's a good idea to reach out and ask for help.
Okay, okay. And then as a family member, when we something happening, maybe.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult, first of all, to accept. Then we say, "Arey nahi, kuch nahi hota hai." All of us
Yes.
are there. So when does the family member start getting a trigger, saying that okay, something is going wrong? Because as a family member, you do observe him day in and day out. And when someone says, "Okay, I'm going through tough times," so you will counsel him. The typical Indian family which happens. So as a family
Yes.
member, what would be your advice to all of us?
So, as family, na, you will have the first glimpse of what the person is going through because you're living with the person. So it's a good idea to check if there is any major change in the sleeping, eating habits. That's one. The second thing is if there is any major change in the performance. So when it is children, usually academic performance. When it is adults, usually work-related performance or, you know, behavior in social situations. For example, somebody who was doing very well at work suddenly doesn't, perform or is not going to work on time or is making a lot of mistakes in work. Something must be going wrong. Why would they do that otherwise, right? Or even if somebody who is very social, extroverted, likes to go out and party all the time, is not going out, even when friends call, is actively avoiding. These are, pointers to tell you that, okay, something is going wrong and you need to check and talk to the person. So one thing is to talk to the person. A lot of times people are in denial and are not willing to accept that there is some problem, you know. So as family, as friends, we should, one, tell them honestly what we feel, that, you know, this is what I'm worried about, this is what I'm noticing, and have you also noticed something like this? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? And then tell them that if you want, let's go and find some help for this. So if they are willing, then offer to accompany them for help. If they are not willing, then just back off and wait till they are ready to accept that there is a problem and then take them for help. There is no point forcing somebody who is uncomfortable or unwilling to come for treatment. They will not agree.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, so that's pretty important. All of us should, being in the Cosmos setup or a nucleus family, and earlier joint family used to be there. Things were different. Everyone used to see each other. Things have changed. So I also remember in the armed forces, like when I was in Naval Academy and all. So I remember one of my friend saying to one of our divisional officer that he's going through a depression. So his treatment was they put him in so much of punishment. बोला कि इसको सोचने का ही टाइम नहीं देंगे, इसको क्या डिप्रेशन आएगा करके so my academy was totally a different this thing. So on a lighter note, do psychiatrists also get this feeling sometime of being depressed? Or I'm sure all of us are human beings, so
Absolutely.
how do you cope up with that? Because you yourself being a psychologist, a psychiatrist rather.
This reminds me of my MBBS. And in third year MBBS, I got measles, and it was a very atypical measles. Okay, like normally measles bachcho ko hota hai, but I had this atypical measles in my 22 years, and I was hospitalized and I was treated. And I used to sit in the JJ ka OPD, and some of my patients who didn't see me for a few days, and then afterwards when I got better and I went to the wards, they saw me. They were like, क्या हुआ, आप इतने दिन आए क्यों नहीं डॉक्टर? एंड आई सेड नहीं, मुझे मीजल्स हो गया था, तो मैं हॉस्पिटल में एडमिटेड थी. सो दे वर लाइक, आप तो डॉक्टर हो, आपको मीजल्स कैसे हो सकता है? एंड आई एम लाइक, बट मीजल्स के वायरस को पता नहीं ना कि मैं डॉक्टर हूँ. सो दिस इज अ कॉमन मिसकंसेप्शन दैट पीपल हैव, दैट doctors are like these perfect things that should not have any problem, should not have any issue. And in fact, this is one of the biggest causes of stress among mental health professionals. So many of mental health professionals that come to me, like for example, a psychologist who is coming to me for treatment, or psychiatrist who is reaching out to me and telling me that, this is what is going on with me. The first thing that they tell me is, what will people think that I am in mental health and I am only not able to take care of my mental health? But that is something that we need to understand, that first and foremost, we are all human beings. So we all go through ups and downs, and we all have the same stressors that everybody else has. So when I delivered my first baby, it was a very, very trying and very testing time for me, because I was doing my PG in Mangalore. I had got only 6 weeks of maternity leave. I had a C-section, and I had put on so much weight. So there was so much on my head after that delivery that for the first 3 or 4 weeks, I remember I would cry very easily. And my husband was completely, lost, because we had known each other for 6 years before marriage. We were best friends, and he just couldn't understand how to deal with it, what is happening to this girl. So anything can happen to any of us. It doesn't depend on what our qualifications are or what is, going on for us. It's important that we understand that each one of us can go through mental health related concerns. In fact, if we start accepting that, that will be one of the biggest things that we can do to create awareness. Because once we accept that this is absolutely normal and everybody can go through it, 10 more people will feel comfortable coming and talking to you about it. And then you can probably direct them to the right person for help. So it's important that we start accepting. And, I think for that, social media is a very good platform, because I see people getting likes only when they post very positive things. And negative things are not really highlighted or not really appreciated a lot. So that's something that, social media can take as a challenge, that maybe we highlight that life is about ups and downs. So the downs have to be highlighted as much as the ups. I can't be a perfect mom all the time. Sometimes I lose it, and that's okay, because I'm doing my best other times, right? So we need to accept that we are all human beings, and everything comes, with the whole roller coaster of life.
Very true, very true. In fact, when you go for the SSB interviews for the armed forces, so a lot of youngsters, SSB is a 5-day process where there are psychiatrists and psychologists who are part of that team of selecting you. So there are, 5 to 6 of them who monitor you, because in the armed forces, they need a person with a stable personality, as well as decent, educated, and they don't need a very hi-fi guy. So the selection is more of a rejection, like out of 600, 700 who goes, it's only 2 or 3 gets selected from the SSB. So it's so tough, And then there is a question when I was in that SSB, when I cleared my SSB. So that first question, one of those questions they asked, what are your positive points, So you have to, I said something. And then they said, what are your negative points? So I said 7 or 8 of them. So I still remember the interviewer asking me that you have said only 3 positive points and you have said 8 negative points. So at that point of time, 22 years back, I said, yes, I have a lot of negatives rather than positives. And then he was like, okay, you are probably one of those few who said you have a full lot of negatives and then hardly 3 or 4 positives. And then he said, when you come to academy, that is our job to convert that negatives to positives, And then probably that hit for me and I got selected to go through the SSB. So there is a problem with a lot of us accepting we are going through a difficult phase. We don't accept it. We don't accept our negative. And all our social media only, appreciate the positive one. So probably all of us here to make that awareness. So 2 more questions before we end. So do you ever see that someone who's, undergoing a treatment or into a problem, slipping away? I mean, there is no comeback, whatever you do, probably you somewhere, he may slip into, or he may not be able to be there. So did you ever come across this situation?
So there are certain psychiatric conditions which are by the nature of the disorder itself lifelong. Okay, like for example, if you talk about something like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, many times when the patient comes to me for the first time in the clinic and I take a history and I diagnose it as schizophrenia, I tell them that they may need treatment for life. Okay, Because when it comes to psychiatric medications, a lot of the medicines are for the treatment and management, but they cannot cure the illness. Because I said, right, that the illness is caused by genetics, personality factors, and stress. So all three combining together to cause the chemical gadbad that is happening in the brain. So it is not feasible to completely eliminate certain factors, but we can bring it under control. And that's what we are offering in terms of treatment. That is one time when I think that, okay, maybe the patient might not come back because, you know, nobody wants to hear that they might need to continue medications for a really long time, possibly all their life. So that's one of the times when I think that. But there are also certain personalities. For example, if the person is extremely defensive, extremely narcissistic and unwilling to accept that they could have a fault. Like, I get a lot of marital couples that come with marriage related concerns. And if one of the partners is very adamant and unable to accept that they have a problem, I know that, you know, down the line, this person might not continue after a while. Because one thing is coming to the doctor and saying, ki, theek hai, I need treatment. The other thing is accepting that I have made mistakes and I need to change my behavior. And that's a much, much bigger challenge for a lot of people. So they're not able to accept that part of it, which is why a lot of times treatment stops midway, or treatment is given up, saying that, you know, kuch fayda nahi hua. So it's not only the willingness to come to the doctor, it's also the willingness to change. And change, as we all know, is something that is very difficult for all of us. So that becomes the bigger challenge. And when I see somebody with a certain type of rigidity in their personality, I know that it might be difficult for them to accept that change is needed.
Very true. Very true. Also, like if I am having a issue, you know, and mental health issues, and when I come to you, and then, you know, at certain point of time, you also declare that, okay, now you're okay, and I also feel everything. Is there a chance of relapse at some point of time if he goes through similar situation again, you know?
Yes. Yes. So that is always the case. And when I'm tapering down the medicine, suppose I have treated the patient for 6 months or 8 months, and I feel that they are doing fine, I often tell them that now I think it is time that we start reducing the doses and stopping them. And we do that. We gradually reduce the doses, finally bring them to zero. And when we bring them to zero, so at the last visit that they come to me, I tell them that from now on, you don't need to come back to me. If there is a problem, if there are these signs and symptoms, and I give them a list of signs and symptoms that they should watch out for. If there is any of that, please come back to me and we will see what needs to be done. So, so that helps them identify. The good thing is, like I said earlier, that people, the second time round, come much earlier. So it's easier to work with, because now they have a trust in me. They know that there is a treatment available. They know what are the symptoms. So they come much faster. So that's a good thing. And it is generally the disorder that dictates whether or not the person will relapse. For example, if it is like a bipolar disorder, there is a very high chance that it will relapse. But if it is like a post-pregnancy and delivery wala depression, like a postpartum depression, it may happen after subsequent pregnancies, but it's not like 100% thing that they will go into severe depression later on in their life. So it is the disorder that dictates. And generally, when I've made a diagnosis, I talk to the patient about the possibility of relapse in the future, so that they are informed.
Okay. And one more question. I mean, I just remembered. So there is something called the art of let go, you know. So when you are in a difficult relationship, maybe a friend, or I think there's some more question, they feel it back when it is cute. Develop a fear when they are back to square one. I think Hitesh is asked this. So I think we'll take this question once I finish this. So the art of let go, you know, like when in a relation or in an office or anybody, anywhere. So when you are in a difficult situation, so a lot of people still get and hang there, and then they, you know, think, rethink. And so as a psychiatrist, would you support this theory of let go, wherein, you know, if things are not working between friends or relation, okay, just move on, that would be the best thing for you guys. Otherwise, वही सोच के. So what's your thought on the theory of let go?
See, honestly, letting go is a very, very, very personal choice. Okay? Because when you decide to let go, you are making the choice to let go because you're willing to pay the price of letting go. Okay? Like, for example, suppose we take a case of a married couple that has come to me and one of the partners has not been faithful. Okay? One of the partners has cheated on the other partner. So the partner who has cheated is the one who is being blamed and who is being, the other partner who has been cheated on is the one feeling very low and feeling depressed. Now, the one who has been cheated on has the choice to let go, correct? But
Correct.
the price of letting go means that I should be able to be comfortable with the fact that my spouse did this. I need to be comfortable with the fact that whenever there is a future discussion, I will not bring up this topic again. That's a big price to pay for some people, right? So I cannot be in a position to judge and tell them that, no, you should do this or you should do that. That's not my job at all. My job is to tell them what the choice in front of them is and then back off and let them make the choice. And once they make the choice, support them through it. So suppose the choice is, I want to leave my husband and I want to start separately, then our counseling and our treatment will go on a very different line. And suppose the choice is that I cannot imagine a life without my spouse. So even though this is a very big thing to accept, I still want to accept it and I still want to continue my marriage. That is also a choice that is valid and acceptable. And I have to support that as well. So I'm not there to judge. I will not judge. I will just support whatever the patient decides is comfortable for them to go ahead. Because I don't have to live with the choice. They have to live with the choice. So letting go has to be the patient's choice and not mine.
True. So I'll just take one question. Ma'am, do the patients often end up with hysteria or a subconscious thought that they feel it's back even when it's cured? Like they develop a fear that they are again back to square one. I think Hitesh is asking. So you want to...
So we don't use the term hysteria anymore. But yes, a lot of disorders which come in that category are because the patient is not aware of what is happening to them. Okay. So earlier we would have hysterical, fainting or hysterical seizures, which are now called as dissociative or conversion related disorders. So these disorders are because patient is going through a lot of stress, but cannot express that stress. So what happens is, because that stress is too much for the mind to take, the mind changes the body's expression. So instead of the body supporting, staying stable, the body may faint, or the person may have seizures, but may not have electrical seizures in the brain, but may have all the movements and activities that happen during a seizure. So actually, this is a dissociation between the mind and body, where the mind is so stressed that the body is showing symptoms of the stress and the mind is not able to express it at all. So it's a very specific condition. And yes, if the person is not taught how to cope with it, they might relapse and might go back into that state again and again.
One more question is, most of the behaviors are due to our thoughts. It stems from deep-rooted beliefs. How can one identify those beliefs and change them?
Very simple strategies of identifying our beliefs is keeping a diary. So you can just write down thoughts, ideas, different notions that come into your head when something happens. And the only thing that you need to do is be honest when you write down. So like, for example, if I'm writing down thoughts that came in my mind when a patient called me at 4 a.m. in the morning saying that they had not been sleeping for 7 days. The first thought that would come in my mind is, why couldn't you wait for one more day and call me the next day in the morning? Okay, that is the first thought that would come in my mind, because I'm a human being and I have been disturbed from my sleep. And I have to be honest about the fact that that is an idea that comes in my head. Okay, but beyond that, I have to move on to the idea that I have to understand that the other person is in distress and is reaching out because of distress, right? So when we start writing down our thoughts, we become clearer about what is going on in our mind. But sometimes it is a little difficult to write down your thoughts honestly. So you could reach out to a counselor or a psychologist who will be able to help you understand how to deal with and identify the thought patterns that are, wrongly rooted in you, and modify them to come to a more rational, more, adaptive thought pattern that can make you happier for the rest of your life.
Okay, that's great. So, okay, so I think, so what are the 5 advice which you will give to everyone, irrespective of age, gender, to be positive and to, you say, so the wellness for both the mental as well as physical. So 5 things which you will say that will keep you sane and keep you smiling and, keep you not coming to you,
Yes, absolutely. That's the goal.
So what are the 5 things?
So my first thing that I would say is take care of your physical body. Yeah, so take care of your health, get your medical checkups done every time. Make sure that you sleep, eat, exercise regularly. This is something that I tell every single patient that comes into my clinic. Whether or not I'm giving them medicines, this is the first thing that I tell them. Make sure you sleep on time, wake up on time. You don't need to be like this person who sleeps at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock in the night. If you feel that 12 is comfortable for you, that's fine. But make sure you sleep on time and wake up on time. It has to be a consistent pattern. Even with eating, even with exercise. So every patient that comes in says, Madam, nahi hota hai exercise. Office ka kaam hai, itna hai, utna hai. Lot of excuses. But when I tell them ki dawai band karna hai to exercise karna padega, then they are very happy to exercise. So that's one good danda that I use with patients. Ki please make sure that you exercise regularly. And I understand that every day is not possible. So keep a goal of 4 or 5 days a week. That is something that every one of us can achieve. So make sure that 4 to 5 days a week, you are physically active. Okay, so that is point number 1. Point number 2 would be to make sure that you create a safety net around yourself. And this safety net can include anybody. Invest in your family and friends because they are the ones who are going to be there to hold you when things go bad. So this is the second thing that I would say. So invest in relationships. This lockdown has definitely taught us that if we have not invested in our relationships, we have really struggled through this lockdown. So invest in your relationships. Third thing is that you need to make sure that you have a goal and a plan for the goal. Yeah. So whatever you have in your life that you want to do, whether it is studies, whether it is work, make sure that you have a very clearly defined goal and that you have a plan that you're going to follow to achieve that goal. So just having a vague idea in your head, ki this is what I want to do, and then not doing anything towards it is never going to help, and you're going to be in distress because of it. So make sure that you put a goal. You can have goal A, goal B, goal C. That is also fine. Like have a backup goal or whatever it is that you feel, but make sure that you have a goal and then plan towards that. Okay, so that's the third thing. The fourth thing that I would like to say is, I am somebody who is very, very fond of nature. So I'm somebody who loves, I find it very calming and very soothing to just go and, like in Thane, we have the Yeur Hills. So I love going there and just walking up and, it's so calming and so soothing. And, with everything that we have seen in the last few months, one thing that has been amazing is the way nature has bounced back. So nature has its own way of teaching you that life is not that difficult and not that bad. And if you look around now, you will see that nature has its own lessons for you. So make sure that you spend time reconnecting with nature. And the last thing that I would like to say is be kind to yourself. Everything and everybody around us is adding to our negative bias. Yeah, so be gentle and kind to yourself. Love yourself. Tell yourself that you are doing your best. It may not be as good as 100 people outside, but it is still your best. And this is something I tell every parent that comes into my clinic, because with a child with autism, with a child with intellectual disability, with a child with ADHD, every parent has this major guilt that, मैंने कुछ तो गलत किया होगा कि this has happened to my child. And I always tell the parents that no, even if you have made the biggest parenting mistakes in your life, you did it with the intention for the best for your child. So please don't ever blame yourself and get into that guilt trip, because we are all human beings and we can make mistakes. So be empathic and love yourself and accept that mistakes can happen. That's completely okay. So those are my 5 pointers.
And trust me, that 5 points are, something I always feel that, you have to love yourself. When you love yourself and when you don't feel guilt about things, so you will start loving around. And the second point, which you said, invest in relationship. And this lockdown probably has taught all of us that how does a family matter? How does a very close set of friends matter? Even in,
Yes.
you would have seen and heard, I have seen, few cases where the parent has passed away because of Corona, and the sons, they are there, sitting abroad or somewhere. You can't help it by nature of that. And then there are set of friends who were there, standing there, irrespective of getting themselves infected, but still they were there. So
Yeah.
as you rightly said, that is one big learning from this Corona, And yes, so how do people reach to you? Before I give a vote of thanks sort of thing, how do you?
Yes.
Okay, Insta handle.
I've just put
Dr.
up my
Vinona.
Insta handle in the chat, so people can just reach out to me on Instagram. It's an open account, so they can follow me, and they can definitely send out messages to reach out if they need any help, and I can connect them to the whichever clinic is close by for them to meet. Right now, of course, majority of the consults are online. I'm going to the clinic, but it's very few people coming to the clinic, because for their safety and for our safety, it is better to do it online.
Very true, very true. And last one question, if I ask, do you feel that is there any person in this world who will say, no, I am mentally fully 200% fit, what would be your take on that? Like me, you, or anybody who says that मैं mentally पूरा 200% ठीक हो करके, ऐसे हो सकता है क्या? Because everyone goes through that ups and downs, sinusoidal wave rather. So I think all of us need.
I think everybody goes through it, but I think the people who manage it the best are the ones who accept that there is a problem. I think
True.
They are the mentally most fit people, because they can identify it and do something about it much, much faster than those who don't accept it. So I have quite a few people in my friend circle who are extremely good with managing their stress. And the first thing that I see is that whenever there is something that is causing them trouble or strain, they reach out and they ask for help. And, it's like ask and you shall receive. So solutions come magically, but they have to ask, and they ask. And that, I think, is one major, major sign of, being in good mental health, that you are ready to accept and that you are ready to ask.
Seriously. That was, to end this talk, that was a very big pointer, saying that if I know there is a problem and I accept it, that is the biggest proof that you are mentally fit, And
yes.
और हमारे दोस्त ऐसे होते हैं ना, कुछ बोले कि यार प्रॉब्लम है, बोले चला जा दारू पीते करके सब सॉर्ट आउट हो. So thanks so much, and it was such a wonderful conversation which lasted close to 90 minutes rather, and
wow.
fully informative. And when the discussion began, I never thought I'll sustain for 40 minutes, because as a sports guy, as a Fauji guy, I never know that I will, how will I keep you there for 1 hour? And then, there is endless question. I can go for 1.5 hours more. A lot of people are there. And thanks to Sameer to connect both of us. And
yes,
and to all you who are watching, I'll put this feed on IGTV as well as YouTube. And you have been such a great advisor, and keeping this aspect and giving us a perspective, saying that so many things all of us learned today from your 5 pointers, which is very, very, very interesting. It was. And thanks for your time on a Sunday evening. 90 minutes was, a big investment for you to
Thank
give,
you.
and it's for all of us to be there. So thank you so much, Vilona, and I'm sure we'll connect. Definitely, we'll connect.
Definitely. Thank you, Vijay. It was a pleasure.
Pleasure. Thank you so much. So, guys, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you,
Yes, sir.
everyone.
Satish sir, yes, that shows I'm mentally fit. Serious. Bye bye. Take care. Good night.
Okay,
Jai Hind.
bye-bye, everybody. Have a good night.
Bye bye. Thank you so much, guys, everyone, to be there. And देख मिलते हैं next week. Hi, everyone. जो भी बाकी जो है, good evening for joining. And I'm sure all of you got a lot of insight into the mental. हाँ, राघव के आते ही खत्म. Thanks, Samir. Thank you so much. Jai Hind, everyone. And keep smiling. Bye bye. Have a great week ahead.